Welcome to the Tied Together podcast, where we feature everyday people doing extraordinary things. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share so others can join in on the conversation too. Today's guest bought her first home in her 20s and later fixed it up and sold it for a small profit. She later discovered that if she rinsed and repeated on a grander scale, she'd be able to make a living at it. 6 years into flipping houses, Flippin' Wendy started posting her work on Instagram. Her love of design would then transform into design consultations and now what she calls hoarding Airbnb properties. Wendy makes her wealth of knowledge available through her blog, book, and on her podcast. Please welcome Mrs. Wendy Doris.
Hi.
Hey, welcome, Wendy. Thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Tell me, how did you even discover flipping houses as an option for you?
I think I was watching, there used to be a show called Trading Spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really into that, about how you could just turn a room around or a house around just by doing, some paint and whatever. But then I think there are other flipping shows, and I thought that would sound really interesting. And so when I first bought my first house, I did some of those things. I painted, I tried to redo the kitchen, I tried to redo the bathroom. Not all the projects got done, but I still made money, so very little. But it kind of motivated me. I don't know why, because there wasn't very much money in the first one, but I thought, okay, I can do this again.
Right. How did your first few flips go? Were they very difficult? What surprised you about it?
Well, the first one I did was kind of a cosmetic one, and I did a lot of the work myself, which was really not a great idea since I am not in construction, and I wasn't a DIYer, so I was kind of making it up. I mean, I knew how to paint, and that was a lot of it, but like the painting itself took forever. Like, it was a small house, less than 1,000 square feet, and it probably took me a good week, maybe even more, just to do and it was lonely. I was there doing it mostly by myself. So after I did that first one, then I decided to use a contractor for the second one. And so that was kind of eye-opening too, about how much a contractor would cost for getting things that seemed obvious to me, like replacing outlets and outlet covers. Just the little things like that. It really surprised me that those things weren't automatically included in the bid.
Oh, wow.
And then having to go back. So I don't know, just every new thing that I added or tried was a struggle.
Yeah, I could imagine. You did it for a number of years, and you said you got inspired from Trading Spaces and flipping shows like that. What is the biggest misconception between those shows and the real life of flipping houses?
Well, I think that sometimes they show it, but maybe not. I don't feel like there's one show that shows the complete process, which is that every step of it is a struggle. I feel a little worn down from flipping, to be honest. So, for instance, just the purchase, the planning, and all the stuff that you have to do ahead of time to be ready. And you're doing all this work not knowing if you're actually going to close.
Right.
So you may not close. And I know that I'm buying a house right now, and I know I may not close, and I'm doing all this work for nothing. So that's difficult. And then after you close, then you got to get all your people going. And sometimes silly things like forgetting to turn the water on happen. And then obviously the contractor can be a struggle depending on the personality you're working with, and also just the things that come up in construction. And then selling the house. They show staging, they show having open houses and everybody's dressed really nice. And then they show that you made all this money, but they don't show the struggle that sometimes comes with the appraisal, the title company. I've had title companies ask me or tell me that they wanted to do an inspection. And I'm like, that's what the city was for.
Right.
So And then you got to get all the staging furniture out if you staged it yourself, and you have to do that within a matter of days or hours before closing. So anyway, it's the whole process is basically a struggle, and it's like hurry up and then wait and then hurry up. So I don't feel like there's a show that completely shows that, which, you know, maybe when somebody gets into flipping, that would be a surprise.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so. Now, I read that you went to ASU, Arizona State University. When you were going to school, were you interested in houses at all? What were you going for?
I was going for business management because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just figured if I did that, it would be helpful for anything that I did. And then I think I remember one time going to a party or somebody's house, and they had like a scraper, a floor scraper, and they were scraping they weren't doing it at the moment, but they were trying to get the tile off the floor. And I remember thinking, I want to like go at that. So I remember scraping a tile floor in somebody's house, probably with a few beers in me. And little things like that, I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I was kind of interested, but maybe I was just drinking.
Could be, but you never know. There's always like little inklings that show you what you're going to do, but you only see that in hindsight.
Right.
Growing up, did you have any kind of influences that let you know that you wanted to run your own business in any capacity?
Yes, I was a gymnast for 15 years, I think. And my stepdad owned the gym that I went to. And so I was very much influenced by him, seeing how he ran a business, and he ran multiple businesses. So I was I thought I was going to own a gymnastics gym, honestly. So that was one of the reasons I thought business management would be good.
Gotcha.
Study. Even if I didn't do that, it would have been, helpful in other places. But so yeah, I did want to kind of follow in his footsteps, I would say.
Do you think going to school for business management is a good idea for youth today that aren't quite sure what they want to do, but they know they want to be in business for themselves at some point?
I don't think it's necessary.
Gotcha.
I struggle with the idea of spending that much money on something that you can just, you learn a lot just doing it.
Yeah.
So say you're interested in reselling furniture, just start doing that, and you'll figure out, oh, I need to take care of my taxes, and I have to track my expenses and that sort of thing. I think you kind of like you can learn those things along the way.
That's true. I watched a podcast that you were in maybe a couple of years ago where you said, how do you know once you've learned enough? And you said, you don't. So can you talk to me a little bit about the learning phase versus the doing phase?
That's kind of how I got started, actually. I was reading a bunch of flipping books or real estate investment books. That's really all there was back then. I think that was in 2006 or 2007. So there weren't like all these, I don't know, seminars or whatever you could go to, or videos. So I think I was on my 5th book, and my husband was like, why don't you just do it already? And I was thinking like, well, I don't know if I should, but again, like, you don't know what you don't know until you start doing it. So I thought, okay, I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to take the first step, which would be to call a realtor who I knew that would help me with this. And so, you start going down those baby steps, and we found a house, and I was like, oh crap, now do I buy this house? Okay, where am I going to get my money? And I kind of had already talked it out with a family member that would help me with just the renovation. And it wasn't very much. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it was like $16,000, which some renovations, can go up into the hundreds.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just started doing just baby steps into seeing what I could learn and what the next step was. And then before you know it, you're doing it.
Absolutely. I really believe that you can think yourself into a corner. You can think of all the ways that it's going to fail, when there are plenty of ways that you can win, which obviously you did. You did well for yourself in flipping houses. but then you change gears. I noticed early on when I started following you on Instagram that you really love the design aspect. You love piecing together the houses, the different colors. You would even ask the followers, like, this color or this color, this tile or this tile. So I could see that you really enjoyed that. Tell the people a little bit about what you're doing now that's different from flipping houses.
Right now, I am doing Airbnbs. So I buy and furnish and design and then run the Airbnbs. So I really enjoy that a lot more than the flipping because there's not necessarily renovation involved, although there can be minor or major depending on what you're buying, but you don't have to buy a total dump to fix it. I'm buying one right now that's not. It'll be paint and furniture. That's the fun part for me.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that part of the design. And then also I get to share the design with a lot of people rather than the one buyer that would be purchasing the flip.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of look at it almost like a chef. Chefs enjoy to watch people eat their food and enjoy their food. And you really love that design aspect, and to be able to share that with so many people, I know that brings you and your heart some joy.
Yes, and it doesn't ever stop either. So I have houses that are constantly changing. So I'll find something, I'll thrift, a piece of artwork, or I'll find a really cool sofa, and I'll bring that into the house, take the old one out and sell it. And so it's constantly evolving, and the houses just get a little bit better, and then the people end up liking them more and more and more. So that's the fun part, that I don't have to like buy a whole new house just to have fun designing.
Absolutely. Is there any kind of schooling or anything that's necessary for this field, designing? Not just go for it. Maybe get a mentor or something. Do you recommend that?
You could. I've had interns before. When I was flipping, I had interns. I really haven't done that in a while. I know some people that will help them, will hire on interns to help them stage or just kind of see the process firsthand. I guess that would take away some of the anxiety of just doing it. But mostly it's just practicing, especially for design. I mean, I know people go to school for that, but if you have an eye for it or an obsession for it and you're doing it in your own house, that's practice. And then
That's true.
If you buy a house and you practice on that one, and you see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So you talked about when you were younger, you wanted to own your own gym. Then you went into flipping houses. And I'm going to assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that at each phase, you knew that's what you wanted to be doing, at least for a while. You knew you were going to be flipping houses, but then you put that down and moved towards Airbnbs. Can you tell me what it's like to put a dream down? Is there any fear? Is there any remorse of leaving something alone?
Yeah, there is a little bit. So I think for flipping, I always, I would get so frustrated at the process sometimes. I would love the house, but the process would really get to me. So I would tell my husband all the time, that's the last one, I'm not doing it. For like 12 years I did that. And then, so it was like having a bad boyfriend, like there were good times, there were really good times, but then there are the really bad times. And then you just continue the cycle. So when I was doing the flipping, I built this Instagram account and really got a lot of feedback from followers and people that were really excited about what I was doing and like to have input, which I like to ask. I like to get the conversation going. So then when I stopped flipping and started doing the Airbnb, I kind of like faltered, and I still find myself like kind of mourning that that past, I guess, where I was known for something, and then I have a following. So what am I going to show them? So I found myself like creating projects for myself for no reason at all, just to entertain people, and that's not healthy.
Right.
So I just stopped Instagram for over the quarantine just to kind of like regroup and really think about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I picked it up again since. But yeah, it kind of, I just didn't know what to do because I'm not on job sites anymore. I'm not in the houses anymore, and my houses are booked, so I don't get to go in them very often.
Right.
So it was a it's a little bit of a, I don't know, regrouping, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I think that's common and so interesting how we tend to tie our identities to what we do. I've done it, do it. And then when you lose that thing, or you don't necessarily have to lose it, you stop doing it or whatever, and you are known for this thing. It's almost like, who am I? Who am I without this? I mean, you're still you. From what I can hear from your story, you have a major like go get it attitude. You know, whatever you're looking towards doing, you just get up and do it. I tend to be that type of person myself, and I try to push people like, just go do it. It's not that hard. I mean, okay, you fail. It's a lesson. Learn from it and do better. Where does that go get it attitude come from? Is there that sense of confidence? Do you doubt yourself? How does that work for you?
I think my mom has always been that way. She would just, she wasn't like, she was kind of, or is kind of handy.
Mm-hmm.
She's more handy now, obviously, but when growing up, you know, she would just try stuff. Like she would be baking Christmas ornaments in the oven, and I don't know, taking plexiglass and melting it and twisting it into icicles for Christmas. So she was always just experimenting, and I think that I got that somehow. Mm-hmm. Just try it. What's going to happen? You know, if it's trash, then you throw it away. But I do find myself, like, even when I hear other people telling me stories or things that they want to do or how nice something would be, and I'm just like, well, so do it.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Right. I want to backtrack just a little bit to when you first started flipping. Did you have a full-time job when you were flipping at first?
I had just helped my aunt open a stationery store. So I did have a full-time job. We were running that, and I decided to try some flips. And then, you know, it was like maybe 1 or 2 a year. It wasn't like turning over a lot of houses at first. And then finally, the stationery store kind of had run its course, and we were like, okay, we're going to close it. And then I decided to go full-time into flipping.
Yeah. Was that scary? Full-time flipping?
It was, but my husband's income would kind of float us, not float us, it would cover our expenses. And then so my job was to provide extra income for things. So that flipping income would go towards, you know, paying off a car or paying for our wedding, paying for a baby, you know, the hospital expenses and that sort of thing. So while we would have had to pay for those things anyway, it was kind of interesting to have that big chunk of money go towards those expenses.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too scary. He was very supportive.
That's awesome.
And I had a plan from the beginning.
Good. Awesome. So you spoke about wanting to quit numerous times over 12 years. How'd you push through that?
I found a new house.
That's awesome.
At the end, I'm like, that's it. And then I would find myself, you know, I have people that would send me houses, or I would just, you know, be poking around looking, and there'd be a new house that would be a new challenge. I really like challenges, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just find a house, and that would be it.
I see that you do like challenges. And when you said that you did gymnastics for a number of years, it made sense. I stumbled upon you doing CrossFit, and the CrossFit Games. And as far back as I saw, I don't know how long you've been doing it, but I saw as far back as 2015. And in 2015, you came in 12,072nd. And this year you came in 291st in the country. And that's pretty dope.
Thank you, but I'm older, so I'm in a master's level now. So there's not as many of us left at that age. But I love competing. And I mean, I'm not like literally going to the game. I'm not that good. But there's something called the Open where the whole world does it, and then you get ranked. But I just love competing against, you know, whoever's next to me or my own time, lifting more. I'm just competitive. That's from gymnastics for sure.
That's dope. That's dope. So I mentioned that I used to follow you on Instagram. Off camera, we talked about how I used to ask you questions, and you were always very helpful. And I probably asked you the same questions a million times. And back then, you didn't have a bunch of followers, so I'm sure you saw my name a lot. But you never like just dismissed me. You always answered the questions, not to just me, but to your other followers. You've gone as far now as to create your own podcast. You have a book co-authored with Brenlow Properties, who I also followed at the time. I find it so funny that you all are together now. Why do you want to help people who are in the same industry as you?
I don't know. I just like sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on the Instagram, the Instagram was started so that I could share more about the process than what like TV shows were showing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like to help. If I can answer a question, I do.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to be. I feel like it would be mean if I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think on the same podcast that I watched of yours, you mentioned that somebody asked you why you would help your competition. And you said something to the effect of that you don't have a scarcity mindset. It's not as if all the properties are going to run out. What is it about the competition, I suppose, that makes you say, hey, come along, I got you, and not be afraid of properties running out?
I don't know. It's probably weird. I remember in college at ASU, we were running wind sprints or some like shuttle runs or something. And my roommate, Megan, was super fast and beating me. And she looked back and yelled at me, hurry up. Because she wanted to have competition. And I find myself doing that like at CrossFit or whatever. And so I think it's just like, what's the fun of it doing it by yourself?
Yeah.
It's not fun. So I don't see a reason not to help people. What are they going to beat me at? Selling a house and making more money? How's that going to hurt me? That doesn't hurt. So I don't know. It's just more fun to have a community. And also in flipping, it's kind of a solo gig. Mm-hmm. Like you have a contractor, but you always kind of feel like he's on the other side. Even the buyer or your agent can kind of feel like, well, they have an interest in this too. So to have a community of other flippers or designers or Airbnb hosts is really nice because you have somebody else to talk to about it, because the regular person they don't know how to talk about real estate,
Yeah, I get that.
Even if I do talk to people who are not in real estate, I'll start talking numbers because I don't care. I don't care about money. I mean, I care about money, but I don't have anxiety about talking about money. And so I'll start doing that, and I can see them kind of go like, the real world doesn't talk about money like that. But in real estate, it's all about the numbers. Mm-hmm. So I thought sometimes I have to watch myself. I'll start interrogating people about, oh, what's your house worth? How much did you put into it? What did you buy it for? And they're like, whoa.
Right. I get that. I like transparency too. And the other thing is that I ask people some, I guess, weird questions, but I always preface it with, you can always decline. You don't have to answer this question. I am curious and I'd like to know, so I'll ask you, but you could always say no, thank you. And I won't be offended. Sorry I asked. We can move on.
Yeah, that's so true. I think transparency, I try to be transparent on Instagram, and I think people like that because it's not like this beautiful facade. Like, I'm going to tell you how much it sucks sometimes. And I think people like to see that.
Yeah.
The real part, the realness of it, I guess. I don't know.
I remember plenty of your posts where you hated a specific door or a window was just getting on your nerves and you just couldn't figure out how to get around it. And eventually you would. And then posting the souls, those were always fun. Looking at those, watching your renovations now or your design projects now, that's really awesome as well. I know in flipping houses, it's pretty male dominated. What kind of walls, if any, have you run into because of that?
Early on, I did. Right now, I would say there's a lot of women in flipping now.
Awesome.
I think that just the TV shows have helped that. But in the beginning, it was a lot of condescending contractors. I have a favorite contractor in Cincinnati. I used to live there, and he was with me to talk to another basement contractor, and the guy was very condescending to me. And I just kind of looked at Joe, my favorite one, and he was like, "What is going on here?" I'm like, "This is how it is. Like, you just have to explain to them, like, this is what I want." And actually, a lot of times I would say, "Okay, I want to have the tile here. I want to do this. I want to do this," and I'm very matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
And the contractor I was interviewing, I guess, or getting an estimate from, will be like, "No, you don't want to do that." And I'm like, "Actually, I do. I do want to do that." And he's like, "No, you shouldn't do that." And I'm like, "But I'm going to." And but as soon as they start a fight with me like that, I know I'll just move on from that person, end that estimate real quick, and move on to the next person, because you don't want to start that way,
Yeah, absolutely. I was in the auto industry for 8 years total, and maybe my 6th year, I may have been a manager at this point, but I had a customer. I'm going over the vehicle with him, male customer, going over the vehicle with him. I know my stuff, I had been doing well in the car business, and I'm going over everything, and he sits back impressed. He goes, "Well, your daddy must have taught you a lot about cars." In my head, I'm like, "Sir, what do you think I've been doing in here all this time?" I don't come here and like eat snacks and do my hair. Like I have to have my car knowledge. So I do understand what you mean by the condescending remarks. And of course, it's more than that. In the auto industry, I would imagine it's kind of like the banter with in real estate, or I like to compare it to barbershop banter.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to have a thick skin and be able to combat the condescending remarks. And for myself, I find as a woman, a constant, not necessarily need, but always proving that I know something, rather than my male counterpart coming in and the assumption that he knows it. Right. I don't really get that assumption. I have to prove that I know what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
Well, I think that after many years at doing something, just when you come in, like, I didn't get that anymore. I don't know if it's because women were more accepted, or if I just sounded like I knew what I was talking about. But I've heard other people, if they happen to be on the job site with me, or they, when I was doing it, they would say, "Man, you just were like, this is what I want, this. You were like," maybe they don't see that side of me if they're like my friend and they're right. on the job site, but I think that maybe just having the confidence after doing so many, over so many years, you just do sound like you know what you're talking about, So time helps.
It does.
But yeah, there's still those times that somebody's like, "Wow, I can't believe you're a girl and you backed that truck up so good." Well, I've been practicing a lot. And I learned myself.
Yes. So I want to talk a little bit more about females in male-dominated industries, because I myself was in one and you are in one. And for me, when I saw the car industry, somebody wanted me to be in it, wanted to hire me, I said no. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought, who lives off commission? That doesn't make any sense. And this is for the boys. But then once I got into it, I loved doing the things that the boys were doing and beating the boys at the boys' games. But there are a lot of women who may not even consider the male industries for themselves, or if they do consider it, they're a little fearful. What would you say to women like that who kind of want to, but think it's more for the boys and not for them?
I would say, what can you bring that they don't have? For me, I brought design knowledge, or at least was developing it in the early days. But I feel like as a flipper in a male-dominated industry, or used to be, that I brought something that the guys didn't have. I mean, for you, I would imagine that being the female on the floor, you stood out.
Yeah. They remembered me, even if they didn't know my name. They asked for where's the girl? Where's the female?
Yeah. So there is something to bring to the table that they don't that they aren't. And I don't know if that might come in the typical female compassionate role or something like that, but whatever it is, it's different.
Mm-hmm. And memorable.
Think of it that way.
Yeah, I agree. What do you have next coming up for Flippin' Wendy, for designs, for Airbnb? What's up next?
I have a new house that I'm buying in the middle of, just finished the inspection, and now we're just waiting to close, and it's in Cottonwood, Arizona. And so I'm excited about that because I haven't had a new one in 2 years.
Is this for you?
No, it's an Airbnb.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we'll probably visit it to update the decor and stay and visit a little bit, but it's mainly an Airbnb. But it is up north, so it's cooler than it is in Phoenix. And there's wineries nearby, vineyards. Sedona is 20 minutes. So I'm really excited about that, to have a new project of my own, because I've been working on a lot of other people's projects.
That's awesome. That sounds like it's going to be an awesome Airbnb and wine country and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's a really funky, it's like an A-frame. Do you know what A-frame house is?
Mm-hmm.
But with the top cut off. So it's really funky.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting style, and it's kind of exactly what I've been looking for. Pretty much anything can be an Airbnb. I mean, you can try. But for me, I wanted to find something that was a little bit epic, that made me look at it and go, I need to stay there.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a date that's available rather than look for something for the dates I want. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'm excited about that. A little bit nervous about it, as all projects go in the beginning, but I'm excited.
That must be a lot of fun to be able to buy different styles of houses. I've always loved houses, the structure. I like the old Victorians. That's my favorite. New Victorians are cool too, the A-frame houses. But it must be a lot of fun to be able to buy so many different types. Do you stay in these as well?
Well, I have 2 now of my own. I had 3, but I sold 1, and they were all in Phoenix, so there was no point in me staying in them. Although we did, when our air conditioner broke at our house here in the middle of the summer, and it was 120, I went and stayed in one of them. And that was early days, so the calendar was actually open. Now my calendars are not open, so I don't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this one's exciting because it's one that I can go to stay in if I want.
That's pretty cool. What do you love about houses so much? Is it the design? Is it structure? What is it that draws you into them?
I love the design. I love that because I tend to collect designs in my mind. Mm-hmm. I really want to do a neutral this and that. I want to do one that's really white. I want to do one that's really bold. And so I collect them in my mind, and I need to find a house for the design.
Gotcha.
Or sometimes a house will take, I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, I know what this one needs. But it's kind of feels like an outlet for the ideas in my brain that have nowhere to go at the moment. And so my own house starts to become like a crazy town. It's like, no, I want to go this way now. And no, now I want it to be all white. No, I want it to all be black. So I need another house to focus on so mine doesn't become so crazy.
Yeah, I bet your husband's like, not this room, please.
He doesn't care. He doesn't even notice. I'm like, What did you see in here? What do you see that I did differently? And he's like, I'm like, the wall's green. He doesn't even notice. He doesn't care.
Well, that works for you because then you have creative freedom.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about your book.
That is a book because when I was starting to have more Instagram followers, I got a lot of questions about how to do it, and they tend to be the same questions. So I thought, and then sometimes people would ask me to go to coffee to answer all their questions, and I can't go to coffee with everyone. So I was telling this to Brenna from Brenlo Properties, and she's like, I know, I have the same problem. I said, we should just write all these ideas down. It doesn't have to be this huge book, but just very to the point, we're at a coffee shop, what I would tell somebody in an hour.
Right.
And so we put it together, and it's just very quick and to the point. I think it's 100 pages, and it's called Shut Up and Flip a House Already.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that's not it.
I think that's what it's called. I wrote it down. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called.
A guide to help you get shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, you do have Shut Up and Flip a House Already. I think, and then the colon, yeah.
Title. We wrote it a few years ago, so the information still stands.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed much. So we use that if people are asking us, I'll answer a question or two, but then if I feel like, okay, this person really wants to dive deep, I'll push them towards the book so that they can kind of like consume all of that when they're ready. Right. It's a lot of information.
It is. And like you said, you learn more from doing more anyway. The learning phase is great, but the doing phase, there's a lot of knowledge to be gained in that. There's nothing like doing.
Yes. And it's kind of like a known thing in the flipping world that like there's a lot of people that are trying to learn how to do it, but never getting off the pot, never actually going to do it. And it's like, okay, just start looking at houses or contact a realtor or whatever it is. Do the first step, do something.
I'm sure they can find questions about where to get money, other people's money, hard money lenders, all that stuff that's in the book, right?
Yes. Yeah. Money thing. There's a whole chapter on just money because that's usually the main roadblock,
I'm glad you have those answers in there. Where can people find you, your book, your blog, your podcast?
You can find it at flippinwendy.com, and all my houses are on there. The book, let's see what else. Blog posts about what's in each house, that sort of thing. So you can find that there.
Awesome. And what's your Instagram handle?
Flippin' Wendy.
Awesome.
No T. FLIPPINWENDY.
Awesome. Thank you. Wendy, last question. What is, if any, a quote that you live by?
Oh my gosh, I don't really have one, but it's probably like, just do it already. Just go.
Yep. That makes sense. That's something I live by as well. You can't think yourself into a corner. And I love when I came back to Instagram and I saw how well you'd been doing. And it's not that you hadn't been doing well already. It's just that I guess the Instagram world found out that you were doing really well. I was very surprised and very happy to see your growth. And I can't wait to see how you grow how you grow the Airbnb and your designs and your design consultation. And I'd love for you to surprise me again in another 10 years.
Maybe I'll have 10 houses by then.
I'm excited. Maybe I'll come visit them, especially the one that you're about to get.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll love to host you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being on today, Wendy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. See ya.
Nothing happens by staying in your comfort zone.
That's right.
You cannot overcome fear by staying in your comfort zone. You have to step out there. And if you are a believer of faith, if you believe in God, then you step out on faith. And if this was destined for you to do, then what's the fear in doing it? Just go for it. And he will guide your steps along the way, along the path. And all that fear, the saying, he did not give us the power of fear, but of what? A sound mind. So you just go after those things regardless. And don't worry about it, because if you're going to pray about it, then don't worry about it. If you're going to worry about it, then why pray about it? So all of these things are important. As you can see, I'm a woman of faith. So don't let fear cripple you from doing what you want to do. It's going to come, but then you have to talk. It's just like with everything else. It starts in your mind. Let that fear go if this is something that you really want to do and that you're passionate about.